Hey folks, welcome to the RPO Football YouTube channel. I'm Brian Ford, and we're going to talk a little bit today about selling Travis Etienne and Kenneth Walker in Dynasty. I've seen a few people hip to this already. I wanted to get this video out there before sort of the general market catches up with that. We're going to talk about why I think they're a sell and what you might be able to get for them. But before we do, let's talk about this concept of, who's a sell and why. In just about any context, someone can be a buy or a sell. There's always a price that at some point, an asset that I thought maybe I didn't want becomes a value. And there's, sometimes there's always a price at which an asset that I didn't think I'd be parting with, it becomes attractive enough to do so. So when I identify a sell, what I mean by it is that the Dynasty community in general values this asset a good deal more than I do, right? So I'm below market on it, right? I can now see, okay, this is a sell opportunity. I can take that piece, add a little bit of a plus to it, and get something really good, something that I value a lot more, and it didn't cost me much. I can tier down and get a plus on top of the asset I acquire. That's usually the one that I do. I tend to have an easier time doing that than the former, but either way, to me, it's a way of moving off an asset to gain value and gain something. So what I'm doing is I'm spotting what I think is a market inefficiency, and I'm trying to exploit the market, right? So I'm going to go over examples of both of those with Etienne and with Walker. So let's start with Travis Etienne. I pulled rankings from a bunch of different sites and averaged them out. And he averaged out to running back 7.22 in Dynasty World, right? And that to me is pretty high. I've always thought he was overrated both as a prospect and as a fantasy asset. I think he was overdrafted by Jacksonville as a first rounder. He didn't hold up well when he had workhorse touches. He's not good at short yardage. In particular, there you can see a stat where he only punched in carries from inside the 5 at a 22% rate when the NFL average is 39%. He's not the receiver that people wanted, and there's layers to that. People will talk about that it was kind of a mirage coming out of college anyway. But he only had 45 targets last year, didn't score any TDs, and so the team looked at this and they have said a couple times they wanted more backs in the rotation, so they kept Jermichael Hasty. They signed to Ernest Johnston. They for now have retained Snoop Connor, who's like a 2-down bruiser, and they used day 2 draft capital on a new running back, right? And also we have to keep in mind too, there's that narrative of he's the old regime's pick, right? He's not the Doug Peterson regime's pick. And so who was that running back? That's Tank Bigsby. Okay. Tank Bigsby is ranked all the way down at running back 42.33. We'll talk about that in a second. He was picked in the 3rd round, 88th overall, the 7th running back off the board. He is the more well-rounded back in Jacksonville. Make no mistake about it. He is going to get short yardage. He's going to get goal line, red zone touches. He has receiving chops. He doesn't run a wide variety of routes, but he had an 18% reception share his last year at Auburn. He's going to be getting what we call high value touches. And that's important in a fantasy world in which, so many running backs are in committees, right? And are splitting touches. So I think the more high value touches are probably going to go Tank's way, especially as the season wears on. And I have him ranked already as my RB24 because of that. Now, what are we going to do with Etienne, right? So where he's being valued at now, RB7, right? And for some people, 5, or 9, right? Wherever it is, right? You need either like a 3-down workhorse role or like really elite receiving profile. You're not getting either with Travis Etienne, right? And so then we have to ask ourselves, oh, well, all these people say like, oh, well, he's gonna get more catches this year. They're gonna incorporate it more. How much does the total passing volume realistically increase, right? While also incorporating Ridley, right? In order for Etienne to get the catches that everybody wants him to. I just don't see it happening, right? So I have Etienne now ranked as my RB13 between J.K. Dobbins and Kenneth Walker, which of course, we'll get to in a second. Again, I think you can tier quote unquote down to a running back the market values less and get a plus on top, or you can add something to Etienne and get something really good, like a high value receiver. And so you can see there, I pulled some recent trades from a variety of websites. All of them were, at least a week after the NFL draft and after that, right up to, the last couple days. And I'm going through these, and pretty much I'm taking the non-Etienne side in like most of these, right? Let's point out a couple. Burks in a 24-second. I'll probably take the Burke side. Add 23 third and a 24-second to Etienne to get Waddle. Smash Waddle for me. Etienne straight up for Olave. I'll take Olave. The 107, yeah, I'd probably, well, that's where it gets a little, that's kind of that line there. But, if you got, Dalton Kincaid in a 1.75 or a 2.0 tight end premium, or if you think you can maybe flip that pick or add that pick to something else, if you're a believer in Addison or QJ at that spot in the draft, that's something that's pretty valuable to get for Etienne. Another Waddle trade that I take, Dobbins in a second. Give me that all day. I've got Dobbins ranked one spot ahead of Etienne, and now I can add a second on top of that. Straight up for Tyreek, especially if you're competing, but still it's a high value asset and it's May, so it doesn't matter if you're competing, just take Tyreek and run. So these are pretty much just about all these. I'm taking the non-Etienne side, right? I think he's an asset that's still highly valued in the market, but one who is, about to decline, I think, in value, and the market hasn't caught up yet. So I think now is a good opportunity to move off of Travis Etienne. So let's discuss Kenneth Walker. His average rank was RB 7.11, right? So a little higher by a smidge than Etienne. Again, I've always thought he was a little overrated. I think there's a hangover from the fact that he was 102 in a down class. I don't think he would really be sniffing that in this class. And yeah, I never really thought he was all that special or elite a runner to begin with. Don't get me wrong, he's very good. He's explosive. He's a home run hitter, but he's boomer bust. And at times he struggled last year to get positive yards. He had the second worst success rate and fifth worst running back DVOA among running backs with 100 or more attempts, right? And that's per Football Outsiders. He did, I think, calm some worries about his pass catching. He was targeted 35 times and caught 27 passes and, looked okay doing it, but still, again, only 35 targets, no TDs. And now we have Seattle kind of rebuilding their running back room after, Penny leaves and Homer leaves and that sort of thing. And, and Carson retired. So they're sort of replacing running backs. And what did they do? Does this sound familiar? They also looked at their running backs. They looked at this guy, Kenneth Walker, that the Dynasty community says is RB7, right? And they said, let's now spend day 2 draft capital, in fact, second round draft capital on a running back prospect, right? And that running back prospect was, of course, Zach Charbonnet, who I have right around market at our RB 25. So he was a round 2 pick, 52nd overall, the third running back off the board. And, tell me if this is familiar. Stop me if you've heard this before. He's the more well-rounded back of the two. He's going to get some receiving. Now, again, I think Pete has been, exaggerating, the idea of Charb's, screen pass game. He didn't really catch a lot of screens, right? He's not a, sharp route runner or something like that, but he definitely has receiving chops that are ahead of where Walker's were coming out of college. He's better, I think, for short yardage and the red zone. And again, he's going to get the high value touches, right? So these situations are very similar. And I think these are situations where you move off of the lead back in these situations, right? Okay. So what are we doing now with Kenneth Walker? Stop me if you've heard this before. The current value requires a 3-down workhorse role or elite receiving. You're not getting either of those with Kenneth Walker, right? Would it really shock us? It certainly wouldn't shock me if we saw the split between Walker and Charb. It says Chard. Oh, it auto-corrected to Swiss Chard. As 55-45, 50-50, and maybe even swing to Charb by the end of the year. You know how rookies get better as the rest of the season wears on, right? You know, maybe Walker is kind of like the explosive Rashad Penny, right? And Zach Charbonnet is Chris Carson with a little less elite violence and a little better pass catching, right? I've taken Walker down to my RB14. I put him between Etienne and Javonte Williams. Again, I'm recommending the tier down for a plus, or add something to him to get something really, really good. And if you look at these recent trades that I pulled, again, I'm taking the non-Walker side. In most of them, Kenneth Walker in the 202 for JSN and a 24 first, sign me up. All I have to do is add next year's first to get Brees, sign me up. Dobbins, a guy I have ahead of him, and Gibson, who's a sneaky buy for me, sign me up. Add Amari Cooper and get Chris Olave, sign me up, right? DJ Moore and Mac Jones, starting quarterback in a super flex. That's a little closer, especially because I'm lower than DJ Moore, lower than market on DJ Moore. But again, you get a young receiver, you get a starting quarterback in a super flex that can plug in to be your QB2. It's attractive, right? It's attractive. I can get stuff added to JT for Kenneth Walker. I mean, what are we doing out here, people? Right? Or I can move him for Lance in a 23 second. Now, depending on how you see Lance and his future shaking out, and if he gets traded and how he'll be when he gets traded and that sort of thing, I think that really turns on how you see Lance, right? For me, that's definitely close. I might take the Lance side on that. And here we take the Seattle backfield and then add Drake London and Quentin Johnston and get Justin Jefferson. Sign me up. I mean, Jefferson's basically worth 4 firsts, right? London and QJ are first. Walker is kind of a first. Charb is like a late first. That's 4 firsts, right? But Charb is also kind of like an early second, and he's a 1B, and he is, a rookie and unproven. London, great peripherals, but the overall production still needs to happen. We hope that happens with Ritter growing. QJ, a rookie. Walker, a guy that I'm below market on. Sign me up. Give me J Jeff for that package. So what we have here are very similar situations, right? We have running backs who are highly valued by the Dynasty community. Their teams spend day 2 draft capital on running backs. Those running backs are more well-rounded. People are underestimating the impact those running backs will have, the role they will have, right? Those new running backs, those rookies are going to be the 1Bs. They're not contingency upside only backup handcuff guys, right? They're going to get high value touches. They're guys worth rostering. So we have both of those situations are the same. You move off of Etienne while you can. You move off of Walker while you can and get some value. But before we leave, I want to talk about what's really wild too. And that is the idea of the difference between Charb and Tank in the Dynasty community, right? So, I'm old. The meme templates I use are pretty stale. So I made a couple, right? For a tweet that I had the other day. And, on the left-hand side, we've got the difference in ADP. On the right-hand side, they're going to be the same thing. They're the more well-rounded 1B on the team, right? They're going to have a similar effect on and cap the ceiling of the running back that's already there, the incumbent. They're going to have similar roles as more well-rounded with the high value touches, et cetera. Yet for some reason, right, Charb's ADP is 112 in rookie drafts and a full round ahead of Tank's, which is 212. And when it comes to startups, they're going 4 rounds apart. I don't see it, right? So if there's a bonus lesson from all this, besides selling Etienne and Kenneth Walker, it's go buy you some Tank Bigsby. He's being severely undervalued, even though he's in a very similar situation to Charbonnet, right? Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment here on the RPO Football YouTube channel. Follow on Twitter at RPO_football. Go to www.rpofootball.com. You can follow me on Twitter at FFJunkie_. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Go sell Etienne and Kenneth Walker.